What if I told you that the fastest human being who ever lived, a man who made Olympic sprinters look like they were standing still, almost never made it to the starting line? What if the greatest athlete of the 21st century was told more than once that his body was simply too broken to run? This is not a story about speed. This is a story about a boy from a tiny island who decided against all logic and all odds that he would not just compete with the world, he would make the world watch in disbelief. The year is 1986. Deep in the parish of Trelawney, Jamaica, a lush, sun-soaked corner of the Caribbean island where the sugarcane grows tall and the mountains cut into the clouds, a boy is born to Wellesley and Jennifer Bolt. They name him Usain St. Leo Bolt. Trelawney is not a glamorous place. It is a small, tight-knit rural community where people work hard, go to church on Sundays, and raise their children with pride. The Bolts run a small grocery store. Life is simple, life is honest, and from the very beginning, the boy they call Usain is anything but slow. As a child, Usain has energy that seems almost supernatural. He runs everywhere, not because he has to, but because standing still feels like a punishment. He sprints down dirt roads, darts between market stalls, and races the neighborhood kids with a grin on his face that never quite goes away. Even as a young boy, no one can catch him. His parents notice, his teachers notice, eventually everyone notices. At Waldensia Primary School, Usain's cricket coach sees something in him first. Not a sprinter, a cricket player. But during school sporting events, Usain's true gift reveals itself on the track. By the time he is 12 years old, he is the fastest runner at his school. Not just fast for his age, fast full stop. His coach at the time makes a decision that will change the course of athletic history. He bets Usain a box of chicken nuggets that he can't win the 100-meter race at the school championships. Usain wins. He collects his nuggets, and the world, without knowing it yet, has just witnessed the beginning of something extraordinary. Here is something most people don't know about Usain Bolt. He didn't want to be a sprinter. His first love was cricket, and his second was football, what Americans call soccer. He had pace, he had skill, and he would later say that under different circumstances he might have played professionally in either sport. But fate, as it tends to do, had other plans. At 15 years old, Usain is recruited to train at the High Performance Center at the University of Technology in Kingston. He is already 6 feet tall, with legs that seem to go forever, and a stride length that coaches have rarely seen in someone so young. Norman Peart, his first serious coach, pulls him aside and tells him plainly, "You are built to run. Everything about you, your height, your stride, your muscle composition, it's like God designed you specifically for the 200 meters. Usain listens, and then, being Usain, he laughs about it. But he trains hard. In 2001, at the IAAF World Youth Championships in Debrecen, Hungary, Usain Bolt becomes the youngest ever winner of the 200 meters at a World Youth Championship. He is 15 years old. Standing on that podium, draped in Jamaican gold and yellow, he looks almost surprised by himself. Almost. The world takes note. Track and field insiders begin whispering the name Usain Bolt, the way people once whispered about Carl Lewis, about Michael Johnson, about Ben Johnson. Something special is coming. Everyone can feel it. Everyone, perhaps except Usain himself, who would rather be home playing video games and eating his grandmother's cooking. And then the body fights back. In 2004, Usain Bolt arrives at the Athens Olympics as one of the most hyped young sprinters on the planet. The world is watching. Jamaica is watching. The weight of expectation sits heavy on his broad teenage shoulders. He doesn't make it past the first round. A hamstring injury, the first of many that will haunt him throughout his career, ends his Olympic debut before it truly begins. For most athletes, an injury like this is a setback. For Usain, it is the opening chapter of a battle with his own body that will last for years. Because here is the thing that very few people talk about when they celebrate Usain Bolt's legacy. The man has scoliosis. His spine curves to the right, a structural condition that causes his right leg to hit the ground with force significantly greater than his left, creating an imbalance that should, by every medical and biomechanical standard, make elite sprinting not just difficult, but nearly impossible. His doctors tell him this, his coaches tell him this, the sports scientists tell him this. Usain Bolt looks at them all, shrugs his impossibly long frame, and goes back to training. Between 2004 and 2007, there is pain. There are setbacks. There are mornings when he can barely get out of bed. There are races he loses, confidence that wavers, and a public beginning to wonder if the prodigy from Trelawney was all hype. At the 2007 World Championships in Osaka, he finishes second in the 200 meters behind American Tyson Gay. It is a result that for Usain feels like a message from the universe. Almost isn't good enough. He changes coaches. He brings in Glenn Mills, a Jamaican legend, a quiet, methodical man who doesn't deal in noise or drama, only results. Mills looks at Usain's running form, his training habits, his mental approach, and makes a simple declaration. We are going to rebuild everything. August 2008, Beijing, China. The Olympic Games. The Bird's Nest Stadium holds 90,000 people. The air is thick with anticipation. Michael Phelps has already become a legend in the swimming pool, but the track belongs to someone else this night. Usain Bolt lines up for the 100-meter final. He is 21 years old, still impossibly young for a sport where peak performance typically comes in the mid to late 20s. His competitors include the fastest men alive, Asafa Powell, Richard Thompson, Walter Dix. These are not ordinary runners. These are men who have dedicated their entire lives to the pursuit of speed. The gun fires. What happens next is one of the most astonishing 10 seconds in the history of human athletic achievement. Bolt explodes from the blocks with the energy of a barely contained force of nature. By 60 meters, he is already pulling away from a field of elite sprinters as though they are jogging in place. At 80 meters, something almost comical happens, something that will be replayed, analyzed, and marveled at for decades. Usain Bolt begins to celebrate. He spreads his arms wide, like a man reaching out to embrace the entire world, and he leans back as he crosses the finish line. He is not even running at full speed when he wins. The clock reads 9.69 seconds, a new world record, and it was set by a man who wasn't even trying at the end. Sports scientists will later calculate that had Bolt kept running at full effort, he could have broken 9.55 seconds. The thought is almost too staggering to process. The Bird's Nest erupts. Jamaica erupts. The world erupts. In living rooms across America, in New York apartments, in Texas suburbs, in California backyards, people jump up from their couches, turn to each other and say the same thing. What did we just see? 1 week later, Bolt lines up for the 200-meter final. If the 100 meters was a statement, the 200 meters is an announcement.
Bolt runs the curve with mechanical perfection, accelerating through the bend like a sports car on a highway, opening up into the straightaway with a stride that covers nearly 3 meters with every single step. He crosses the line in 19.30 seconds, another world record, another new frontier of human possibility. He wins a third gold medal in the relay, and Beijing becomes his. Not just the stadium, not just the track, the entire narrative of sport in the 21st century pivots on those 8 days in August. In the United States, where track and field had been quietly losing cultural relevance for years, something shifts. Sports channels lead with Bolt. Late-night hosts talk about Bolt. Kids in schoolyards try to imitate his signature celebration, the archer pose, the lightning bolt, pointing one arm skyward and pulling back the other like he's firing an arrow into the heavens. It becomes one of the most recognizable gestures in global sports culture. His name, already legendary in Jamaica, becomes mythological everywhere else. But greatness is never without shadow. In 2009, at the World Championships in Berlin, Bolt does something that makes even his previous performances look modest. Running the 100 meters in Olympiastadion, in a race so fast that it doesn't seem real, Bolt stops the clock at 9.58 seconds, a world record that still stands today, more than 15 years later, in an era of carbon fiber shoes and advanced training science and nutrition that athletes of the past could never have imagined. For context, when Bob Hayes won gold at the 1964 Olympics with a time of 10.06 seconds, America called him the fastest man alive. The margin between Hayes's legendary time and Bolt's world record is nearly half a second, an eternity in sprinting. In the 200 meters in Berlin, Bolt runs 19.19 seconds, another world record. The numbers are almost offensive. And yet, doubts exist. Track and field is a sport scarred by doping. Ben Johnson, Marion Jones, Lance Armstrong's shadow falls over all endurance sports. When someone performs at the level Bolt performs, at the consistency Bolt maintains, the questions come. They always come. In 2016, Bolt's former training partner, Nesta Carter, tests positive for a banned substance. The relay team from Beijing is stripped of their gold medal. Bolt, who was not personally implicated, who had passed every drug test he ever took, loses one of his 9 Olympic gold medals through the actions of someone else on his team. He is asked about it. He absorbs it. He says simply, "I can't control what other people do. I can only control myself." And then he goes back to running.
The 2012 London Olympics are, if possible, even more electric than Beijing. Britain turns out in force, the world turns out in force, and Usain Bolt, now 25 years old and the reigning champion, carries the weight of becoming perhaps the greatest sprinter in the history of the sport. He wins the 100 meters in 9.63 seconds, the second fastest time in history, behind his own world record. He wins the 200 meters in 19.32 seconds. He anchors the Jamaican relay team to gold. 6 gold medals in 2 Olympics. The crowd in the Olympic Stadium in Stratford carries him on their noise, their energy, their collective disbelief. And somewhere in living rooms across America, people are once again standing up from their couches. But it is in London that something else happens, something quieter, but just as important. The world begins to understand that Bolt is not just a sprinter. He is a personality, a force, a reminder that sport at its highest level can still be, should be, joyful.
He smiles between races. He dances in the warm-up area. He takes selfies with athletes from other countries, from other sports. He is, in the most genuine sense, having the time of his life. In a sporting culture increasingly dominated by corporate messaging and carefully managed public images, Bolt is refreshingly, disarmingly real. The 2016 Rio Olympics present Bolt with an opportunity no sprinter has ever had, to win the same three events, 100 meters, 200 meters, relay, at 3 consecutive Olympic Games. The triple. No one has ever done it. No one has ever come close. Bolt is 30 years old. His body has been rebuilt, repaired, and pushed to its absolute limits more times than he can count. The scoliosis still curves his spine. The hamstring that tore so badly in Athens is held together by years of physical therapy and sheer willpower. There are younger sprinters nipping at his heels. Justin Gatlin, the American, has been waiting years for his moment. In the 100-meter final in Rio, with the Maracanã breathing fire and 60,000 people holding their collective breath, Bolt runs 9.81 seconds. Not his fastest, not even close to his world record, but fast enough, more than fast enough. He crosses the line and the archer pose goes up, and the sound that erupts from the stadium is not just a crowd roaring for an athlete, it is 60,000 people witnessing history. He wins the 200 meters in 19.78 seconds. He anchors the relay to gold. Triple. 9 Olympic gold medals, 11 World Championship gold medals, 3 world records that still stand. The numbers are so large, so complete, that they stop being numbers and start being mythology. In 2017, at the World Championships in London, the city that once crowned him, Usain Bolt runs his final competitive race. It does not go the way anyone wants. In the 100-meter final, competing alongside his great rival Justin Gatlin and a field of elite sprinters, Bolt pulls up at the 80-meter mark. His hamstring has given out. He collapses to the track, writhing in pain, unable to finish the race he has dominated for a decade. His teammates rush to his side. His competitors stop to check on him. The crowd, an English crowd, tough and proud, gives him a standing ovation that goes on and on, because they understand what they are watching, the end of an era. He doesn't win. He doesn't even finish. But as his teammates help him off the track, as he waves to the crowd with tears in his eyes and that famous grin somehow still on his face, the standing ovation doesn't stop. 60,000 people on their feet for a man who didn't finish his race. Because some legacies aren't built on the last moment. They're built on everything that came before. In the United States, Usain Bolt occupies a unique and fascinating place in the cultural imagination. America is the country of speed, muscle cars, rocket ships, bullet trains, broadband internet. The American obsession with going faster is written into the national DNA. And yet, for the better part of a decade, the fastest human being on Earth was not American. He was a kid from a tiny Caribbean island who had never even been to America before he became world famous. This could have bred resentment. It bred something closer to reverence. Because Bolt never positioned himself as an adversary to America. He embraced American culture, the music, the energy, the showmanship. He performed in American stadiums and charmed American audiences. When he raced American sprinters like Tyson Gay and Justin Gatlin, the competition was fierce, but the respect was genuine. Bolt never talked trash. He competed. More than that, in an era when America's track and field program was struggling to produce the transcendent stars of the Carl Lewis and Florence Griffith Joy era, Bolt reminded American audiences of what the sport could be. He made people watch sprinting who hadn't watched sprinting since the 1990s. He made people care. His influence can still be felt today in the way American track programs talk about athlete development, in the way young sprinters carry themselves, in the cultural moment that has made names like Noah Lyles and Fred Curley household names in ways they might not have become without Bolt paving the road. Usain Bolt retired from competitive athletics in 2017. He tried professional football, real football, the kind with a round ball, having trials with clubs in Australia and South Africa. He scored goals, he played with joy, but his heart, deep down, had already run his last great race. Today, Bolt is a businessman, a philanthropist, a global ambassador for sport. He runs the Usain Bolt Foundation, focused on providing educational opportunities for children in Jamaica and across the developing world. He is a father. He is, by all accounts, happy. The records still stand: 9.58 seconds in the 100 meters, 19.19 seconds in the 200 meters. No one has come close. In a world of constant improvement, of better shoes and better nutrition and better science, the mark set by a boy from Trelawney with a curved spine and a lopsided stride remain year after year untouched. When you watch the footage of Bolt at his peak, that loose, almost casual acceleration, those enormous strides eating up the track, that grin that says he knows something you don't, you are watching something that may never come again. Not just an athlete, a phenomenon. A moment when the universe briefly cooperated to put the right person in the right place with the right spirit and allowed human beings to see exactly how fast one of their own could truly go. The lightning bolt doesn't strike twice, but